approximately 55 minutes. If you can log off of the Market Center Wi-Fi so that we can record, that gives us the ability that if somebody is out at a listing appointment, we're able to record this for them. So we would love if you could turn off the Market Center Wi-Fi for a few moments.
Let me get this right.
Silence your phone.
Oh, it's popular today.
Excellent. Got one more chair. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we are kicking off today. Noisy people in the back of the bus, zip it. Welcome in, everybody. I want to start off by welcoming somebody new into our world. We want to welcome in Alma. She is joining our QW Metro family. Welcome, Alma. And quick gratitude moment. I will let you guys have this one. Otherwise, I have some gratitude to give out. Anybody have? Yes, Bridget.
So, they say that when you raise a kid, it takes a village. But I also think right now, when you sell a home, it takes a village. And I've had some pretty difficult listings lately. And I wanted to say thank you to some amazing agents that have helped hold my listings open and help get them sold. One of which is Yvette. She does a ton of open houses. Like, she's way better at them than I am. And I already gave her a gift recently for that. And then Sam and Yanni, you held one open that was an absolute nightmare. You guys door knocked, you got it all done. So here's a little gift card to Tarjay for you. And then the other person isn't here, so I will save that. And then also, I don't know if you guys heard, but we have a brand new homeowner in the house. So congratulations to
Damn it, you got me. Normally, I'm the one that gets to do that to people. Thank you guys. If we're not friends on Facebook yet, I close escrow on my condo up in North County. So I'm very excited. It was a very long process. If you ever want to know what not to do on your long-term plan, I'm happy to share all the things I did wrong on the way there. And I'm very thankful. That was my moment of gratitude, so that's a perfect transition. I just want to thank I told very few people, actually happened to be one of the people that knew, and helped me sort of reconfigure some things when my original plan wasn't going the way I had hoped. And I think that's one of the things we do as real estate agents. So that was my moment of gratitude. Thank you, Ashley, for helping me get here.
It's more than a moment. This old man and I go way back. Yeah, you do. Who's behind you? And you can read the card later, but we have been through some stuff over 15 years, 16 years?
17.
And I have got to say, over the last 60 days probably, it's been the most intense professionally. And I have no fucking idea, and I say that with emphasis, how he's done it without killing somebody. But thank you for me. Recording. And on behalf of all of them who don't probably know how lucky they are to have you, we were just in Austin for mega camp, and I hang out with OPs and brokers all day long, and there are people who are quitting left and right because they can't handle the stress. So, thank you.
Here's my resignation.
Yeah.
That's a lot of gratitude. That's a really fun way to start. Thank you so much. That was a great one.
I'm actually gonna take a photo real quick.
Yeah.
If that's fine with you
Please
guys.
do.
For social media purposes.
Cute.
Press the wrong button. Okay, there we go. So I'm David Eastridge with Hawthorne and Albatross. Many of you know us, probably a few of you don't. We are your #1 agent-friendly San Diego fix and flip company. What does that mean exactly? You guys send us a deal. we give you the opportunity to represent us on the purchase of that transaction. And then after we renovate it, we give you the opportunity to relist that property with us as well. I would say 95% of our transactions and deals come from agents, relationships that we've built and established over the years. And in this industry, being a flipper, our reputation is everything. So that's what we stand behind our product, and like agents that work with us know we do a great job and we stand behind our work. So continue to send us those fixers or properties that are a little bit outdated, that need a little TLC. So just stay blessed.
There's a couple chairs in the back stacked in a corner if you want to sit back there. If you're good there, that's good too. And there's also the ledge. Options, back corner. You want to grab those? Thank you. I would also like to recognize everybody that made our leaderboard. So you will also see this recognition. But Stephanie, Kelly, congratulations. We're so excited for you. It's awesome to see you guys. And Mike, Sal, and Mike and Jess are so We've got some local celebrities in the room. Congratulations, everyone. And congratulations, Priya. I just saw you. Anybody that may be slightly newer to the KW world, that means that she's at 100% commission. Well done, my friends. Congratulations. And congratulations to Gary Lawrence. Is he here with us? I will also add, for you guys that don't know Gary, this is his first year in the business. Wow. Yeah. Congratulations. That's amazing. That's awesome. You can totally do it. It can be done. Training event. So for those of you that didn't hear last week, Never Ending Referrals, Amy and Maria are doing that Fridays at 1:30 here in person. Is there anything you would like to add?
For those that would like to participate, I believe there will be a Facebook post. Please register so we can make sure you're on the email list to receive your course materials that you will need to print out and bring with you on Friday. And plan for about an hour to an hour and a half this week.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Codebook. So this was just re-released to us, and they mentioned it when we were on our leadership call. So if you would like to scan this, or I can get you a copy of this, this has also been posted to our Facebook page in case you want to grab it there. This is going to go to the codebook. If there's anything that you're like, I don't know how to do a next level open house, I don't know what that looks like, you can go to the page in here and it will have codes. It will say, first you do page 6, then you do page 9, then you do page 12. You really go to page 9 and it says, here's all the pre-work that you do. You go knock doors around it and you drop off a flyer. Here's what that flyer says. Then page 12 says, then when you're there, do this that morning. Go put out this many signs, right? It literally walks you through step by step. So if there is a pillar you're adding to your business, if you're doing something, but you're like, I feel like I should be doing this better, this is an amazing resource, and all of this has been pulled from KW agents all over the country. We take their best practices and models, and what we see happen a lot, and for some of you guys in this room that have been in the business a long time, is maybe you don't even know that you're so good at something because that process is so natural to you. So what Jason does at headquarters is he sits down with these top agents and he talks through that process with them, and he puts it on a sheet of paper so that other people can duplicate that system and that model. So fabulous resource. It's also on the Facebook page. Find me if you need it. Have this. It's a great tool.
Evie emailed it to us too.
Emailed it. We want to make sure you guys have this. You are all the fun. Agent of the Month. I am always excited to do Agent of the Month because this is our opportunity to recognize somebody who we see having amazing success in the Market Center, who has been working hard. A lot of times this person has been contributing, giving something back, or sometimes the people that you hear in the gratitude moments, like these are the people that it's not just like one drop in the bucket. They are consistently showing up, and we love to see when that then shows up in their business. So I am very excited for September, our Agent of the Month. It's great.
I'm hiding
So congratulations, Nancy will be in touch. We are so thrilled to name you our agent of the month.
Thank you so much.
Did you get a car?
Is it red? You get Oprah giving out keys left and right. I love it. We're closed on Monday. It's Labor Day. I heard like 6 people come in today and say they forgot. So Monday we are closed for Labor Day. Please let us know if you need a key in the building because we will be closed on Monday. One more shout out. Obviously, we want to thank David. Did he sneak out of the room? Thank you, David. We will give him another round of applause when we see him. One more agent spotlight. I think I saw Maggie today, but we wanted to highlight Maggie at Escrow Partners. She just opened escrow with us. If you guys have any questions, just so you know, Escrow Partners is physically moving their office right now. So if you need something, you can also shoot me a text, like get in touch with me. They were physically moving yesterday. Anything to add on that, Ashley?
Well, they are literally in the building now, in a temporary suite on the 7th floor, because they're building the suite that is 2 doors down here for them. Won't be available for probably till mid-October, so they're camping, basically, up on the 7th floor. But they're much more accessible now that they're here.
And we'll do a more formal announcement when they're officially in that suite. So we'll bring that back to you guys because then we'll just be just down the hall. So you can just hop in and be even easier to open escrow with us. The other thing is if you guys want to vote, so Thursdays I do marketing class on Zoom. So if you want to vote, go there and tell me what you want to do. Otherwise, I'm a pick, which is fine too. But if you have something, let me know. Or grab me after the meeting and say, hey, I want to know this marketing thing. I would rather teach things that you guys want to know. And I'm fairly good at some of that stuff. So I can probably figure it out in 24 hours. Or I know the link where I can go figure it out in 24 hours. So let me know if you want to vote or grab me afterwards. Otherwise, I will come up with something cool. Commercial quarter. Where did you go?
Hi, I'm here. Good afternoon, everybody. So, 2 minutes of fame. So, upcoming this week, we have a potential 7-unit in Imperial Beach. It's going to be about 2.1 million-ish. So, if you have or know of anyone that are buyers to purchase multifamily, send that over, get your referral fee. And also, we have a church/preschool, which usually goes like wildfire. It's a little bit of complex property. It may be wiggling again. That one's about 1.4 million, although it's listed at 1.8, so you can get an underground deal. Again, if you know anyone with a preschool that's looking to expand, where is that now? That is City Heights. So Zillion Park, Lexington Park. And then we'd like to thank Kareem for your referral for the cure. I can't say it right. Taco Place. The Spanish speaking and our commercial real estate team, so don't hesitate to send them through. Get those referrals.
Love that. Oh. I'll take it on now. I haven't yet.
Next, as they try to figure this out, for the coaching spotlight, Sam and Yanni opened escrow with another set of buyers. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
And then do that. There's never any hiccups ever. All the deals, right? Look, that's what Alicia said. Yay! Property pitches, post on Facebook because we got a lot to go through. But please post because we want to hear, and also pitch them out here. But please post those, and then we're going to you, right, BB?
Yeah, so if you haven't disconnected from Wi-Fi, please do that, because that's why we're having this issue. So follow the instructions at the very beginning, and please disconnect from Wi-Fi. Spade, are you here? Spade, what are you streaming?
It was good.
All right. Oh, so today is August 28th. Anybody know what that day is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
So I brought that up last month too, just so you know, what is retrograde, what happens during retrograde? Yeah, communication breaks down, people don't think before they speak, technology sometimes is ending, yeah, so.
If you believe in that.
Here's our agenda this today. I'm not going to repeat everything because I'm just going to get right into it. Show of hands, everybody in the room that has not logged in, got this free course from CAR, and listened to both of them. If you have not,
All right, I'll be honest.
okay, what's your problem?
I had to listen to the first one.
I listened to 1 5 month old, whatever.
So I'm bringing this up again because if you're asking me questions that are covered in here, I'm going to ask you, did you take the free class? Because that question is covered in there. I might be a little short, yeah. Because I did take a week vacation that was not a vacation. Because Mark was on vacation too, and I love how you all freaked out. You guys are both gone. No, I was available. I said Mark, because Mark needed. And by the way, Mark, Mark, you're listening. We owe gratitude to Mark because we're so grateful to have him because he knows. By the way, if you're not reading your review messages, the review messages are intended for you to understand and navigate through this time when you submit your files and they're messed up because you're not following the system now that CAR has put in place. And it's a big ass system that they put in place with the BRBC. There's a lot to comprehend, and I'm still comprehending. So read those review messages because they help you understand all the new forms that they came out with. So thank you, Mark. I'm a debt of gratitude. So now all this is accessible. This PDF is accessible with the links. I'm not going to click on most of these links, but when you get the PDF, if you have not downloaded the new templates and installed them in your zip forms, here is the link to do that and to show you how to do it. It's step by step. And Space says what? Louder?
Easy.
Yeah. Can a 2-year-old figure it out, Spade?
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know if some agents can. I did exactly what they did and it didn't install. Okay. But in the PDF, these documents have been emailed out by Evie. They've been posted on Facebook. You just go to the PowerPoint for the risk management meeting, and it's a PDF, and you can click on the link that will show you how to install the templates that we put together with all the opening documents for your listing agreements and your purchase agreements. By the way, so in the listing agreements and the purchase agreements, I as broker, we've already installed into both of those documents in other terms, I believe in it, below commission. And in that commission portion is about adding a compliance fee to your listing as well as your buyer documents. Meaning, if you want to pass the cost of TC work off to your buyers and sellers, you can add that. Why do I want to do that? Don't really want to, but I think what's going to happen is we see commissions maybe go down a bit. You guys will need to defray some of your costs. Maybe we'll see commissions go up. But I think it's a good practice to start adding a compliance fee onto your listings and your purchases and have the buyer and seller pay for it. You can choose to do it or not do it. I'm recommending it. I'm allowing it. We have the verbiage in there. If you don't want to do it, take the verbiage out. The verbiage says, forget what it says, but then there's a little insert field for dollar amount, and you just put in the dollar amount. Your costs are probably going to go up. Compliance charges will probably go up. We are doing a lot more work on the back end. And it's just where the business is. This has put so much more work on Mark to go through a review than ever before. And I'm just forewarning you. And then this link is every CAR form that was released and updated. And it's the draft version. What do I mean by draft version? It's the red line version that shows if it's an older form and they updated it, all the updates will be in red. Or if it's a brand new form, it'll notate that it's a brand new form. My recommendation is go through the purchase agreement and the listing agreement to see what changes were made in that listing agreement or purchase agreement. And when you're taking the car classes with the listing agreement and the buyer broker agreement, you can follow along with the red line version. You'll comprehend. So if you've been in the business a long time, that's probably an easier way that's how my brain works, is let me see what's changed so I can understand the changes. Because all the stuff that's in there before, I knew about. Any questions on that? Okay. Now, RLA. So I'm going to go through with all the stuff. There we go. It's not streaming.
Hey, Robert,
Yes.
question. So on the compliance and the TCP, or I guess, or escrow, whoever here, how do they put it on the breakdown? Do they put that as compliance and they put that as TC for the most part?
Separate, yeah.
Yeah, separate.
It is, but it says listing agents, blah, blah, or buyer's agents.
Not escrow, on your disbursement authorization.
No, I know, but how did, so on the commission then, does it come off as commission then?
No, it would be a line item of whatever you're gonna call it, TCP and then fee.
Yeah, so you're going to submit your listing agreement, or as well as your BRBC to escrow to prove that that's owed.
So however you title it is
How
how
do we
you
title it?
How do you know what the compliance fee is?
It's 100, but no, it's not.
Those batteries. So I want to review some of those common things you guys are calling me about, and what's discussed on the car calls the most is item C1, C2, and C3. So what's item C1? Who wants to tell me? This is on the listing agreement.
Your commission is the
The
listing.
compensation that the seller's gonna pay.
Yeah, what is that?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's negotiated.
It's my fee that I'm negotiating.
Exactly. It was a trick question.
Do you wanna know what I'm charging?
Yes, what are you charging?
3%.
Good for you. I love it. You all should be charging 3% also on your buyer program.
I actually give them a choice, 2.5, 3, or 3.5, depending on which garden they want me in. Okay, 3, 3.5, and 4, I'm changing it, it's not bad.
Okay, item C2. If you check this box, it says additional compensation to seller's broker if buyer is unrepresented. Show of hands, who understands what this means? Oh, good. What is it then? Who wants to explain it in agent
It
terms?
is not dual representation. It is when a buyer comes in and wants to purchase it without representation, meaning you are charging a little bit extra because you're still gonna do the footwork of delivering the documents, but you cannot give them any advice. You cannot give them any guidance. It's simply giving them the paperwork and doing that transaction.
Great. When you have that conversation with the seller about that box being checked at the listing appointment, right?
Yes.
And what is your discussion about? What should your discussion be about with the seller about that box?
Exactly that, but the value of having them have a buyer broker representing them.
But what happens, let's say they want that box checked. They're like, yeah, I'll pay you an additional 1%.
The potential additional liability that can come from that.
No,
Value?
I don't understand the question.
I know, that's why I'm opening that for conversation to see where your guys' thinking is on this. Why would you want to have that box checked for a seller?
So you can be compensated for the additional work that might be involved on your end, trying to get this deal closed with somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, protecting your client.
You can tell that, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to have this box checked? Chris?
If you're like me and you don't want to deal with the headache anyway, you tell them, go get an agent.
But not everybody will.
Yeah, if the seller's gonna reject offers that don't have a buyer broker.
Right, and that's going back to, if we encourage them not to check it, then are we not colluding to have to pay for a broker?
Can you say that louder?
So by encouraging them not to check it off, are we kind of colluding on having them have to pay a buyer broker?
No,
No, I
No?
don't think. It's
because
sort
if
of
the buyer
RPC.
comes unrepresented, there's no broker for the seller to pay.
No, they started talking about if like with Spade's not doing that, not doing unrepresented buyers, he's saying go find an agent. So
You're kind of,
Corinne's saying like, are we then steering them? But I mean, not really. If they say they're not paying a buyer broker, then they're not paying a buyer broker.
Seems to me, if you explain it right to them and they sign it, they'll be more likely to pay an agent coming in with a buyer. It seems like, I'm already gonna pay you if they don't have a buyer, so I don't pay this guy if he has a buyer's agent. Does that make sense?
Robert, question.
I
So
mean, if you say, okay, you have to pay me extra if I represent the buyer, if I'm doing the work for the buyer. So why don't you just go ahead and pay it to a buyer's agent instead?
spend more money.
So what?
I wouldn't do it for anyway.
Yeah.
Which is great.
So let's say hypothetical, right? Okay, so you don't sign that part right there, and they say, okay, I'm still going to put an offer in, right? The requirement that we don't want to give the documentation because we don't want to basically be affiliated with that at all. What are the requirements for us? Basically, if our seller says I want to accept it, right? I want to accept their offer, but it's basically on a out of date form and that kind of stuff. We don't want even not affiliated, that kind of stuff. I mean,
Who's your duty to?
it's to our seller. So if they say they want to accept it, right? I mean, so
what happens if you get an unrepresented buyer that brings in an offer on an outdated form or on a napkin?
yeah,
Your duty is to do what? Present the offer, right?
yeah,
But then after that, you need to protect your seller, right?
yeah.
Which means you're gonna have to now rewrite everything on a purchase agreement with the new RPA and then make that as a counter back to that buyer. Right?
Or you just give it to them and say that they need to fill this out. Should you be filling it out for them?
You can give them to them, that's correct. Or they can go to zip forms and buy the documents. But you can't help them fill it out. You can't give them information if they're unrepresented. And by the way, they have to sign a BNA. You know what that is? Buyer non-agency. Now, in that buyer non-agency, it specifically states that I can give you documents, but by doing that, I am still representing the seller and I'm not representing you. And the whole time, you're also in an email. In every communication, I'm representing the seller, I'm not representing you. I'm representing the seller, I'm not representing you. What you want to try not to do, if that box is checked and you start helping a buyer that has a buyer non-agency, is creating what's called implied agency. And that's where they're gonna get you. Creating implied agency can be just as volatile as agency. Because you went the extra step to help that buyer, and then that seller can make a claim against you because you're not representing them, you're helping the buyer now. You see why I hate dual agency by one agent in this office? Because I gotta walk that very tight rope whenever there's an issue.
So, can I get clarity on something?
Yes.
So, somebody comes in, they write up a contract in Google Docs. I can take that contract that they've given me and hand them a blank one of this and say, you have to fill this out. I'm not filling it out. You have to fill it out.
You can't direct them that way. You have to first go to the seller, present the offer to the seller,
Right.
and ask the seller, what would you like me to do?
Okay. So
I could counter back with our documents that we use, because there's protections in those documents for you, and then I can insert all the stuff that they put in here, and then make that the counter back to them.
So I can do a counter offer to include the RPA. So I have to say, blah, 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 to include the RPA. And then I can fill all that out, give them the counter offer plus this purchase contract with everything they filled out on their Google Doc. And that's okay. That's not implied agency.
And every time you're talking to that buyer, I don't represent you, I represent the seller.
Yeah, well, I would also send a DNA with it.
Yeah,
So,
but every time, I'm talking every time you talk to them.
yeah, so, okay, so I can spread this out as long as it's part of a counteroffer, or the seller can say, tell them to fill out a regular purchase agreement. And then I tell them that?
Yeah, well, you presented the offer and then you can tell the buyer, my seller doesn't want to accept your offer. They would rather have it presented on zip forms.
Okay,
Here's a way to go get them.
okay.
I'm gonna tell you, I see this as a very uncomfortable place, especially when agents wanna make the deal. And here we are, and we're in the middle of it, and there's things that need to happen, and they wanna get the deal done, but we overstep that.
By the way, have you all reviewed the broker compensation advisory in detail?
Yes.
This is outlined in there. So if you need the verbiage on how to have that conversation with the seller about checking this box or not checking this box, it's in there. And that's in the link as well too, all the documents I'm sending to you. So write this down, review the broker compensation advisory. It has the language to use to talk to buyers and sellers.
I've been even using it for my consultations.
Yes, it's perfect.
It's a great resource, yeah.
It is a great resource. So what's happening is people are thinking that this is the compensation that you would pay to the other side. It's not. So I'm getting that. So it's not compensation you pay to the other side. By the way, where do you put compensation you're going to pay to the other side in the listing agreement?
Nowhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just did check off on the MLSA whether they're considered that or not.
It's the MLSA addendum. So in the MLSA addendum, that's now attached to the listing agreement. And in that addendum, it basically allows you to be able to convey to a buyer if the seller's willing to offer concessions or if they're willing to offer compensation to a buyer's broker. You can convey it in a text message, in an email, in a printed material to a buyer's broker, but you cannot put it where? Cannot put it in MLS. That's the main rule of the settlement.
Can you put it in a posting in an open house?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Put it in the bathroom on the mirror. Everybody.
So that MLSA form on the back of the RLA, this is the form you're going to need to read too, and understand that and comprehend its language in there as well. By the way, can you offer concessions or advertise concessions in SDMLS?
No.
Can you advertise it in CRMLS?
Yes.
As of right now.
Oh, really?
So, in San Diego County, we have two MLSs. We have SDMLS, which is part of SDAR, and we have CRMLS, which is South Bay and North County. The CRMLS has taken the thought that it's okay for a seller to offer concessions and put it in the MLS. SDAR has taken the point that it's dangerous to do that, so they're not putting that as a field of yes or no in the MLS.
Now, are we talking in the confidential remarks?
No, there's actually a field in CRMLS that says yes or no. It doesn't have a dollar amount. It just says yes or no. And so if you are CRMLS in this room, you'll need to know that rule, that you can do that because you're putting it into CRMLS, but if you're SDMLS, you can't put it in your listings. And since we belong to all the MLSs in San Diego County, I have to inform everybody that's in one or the other how to do it.
I have CRMLS.
Okay?
I thought I had heard somewhere that SDMLS allows you to, in the confidential remarks, just put that whether they're considered it or not. That's it. No? Maybe that checks your whole form.
By the way, right now they're just doing fines or notices. But what's the fine if you put any dollar amount in the MLS? $1,500. $1,500. Right now they're just giving you a notice.
For a month and a half.
Nice.
For a month and a half? Good.
You got time, guys.
Okay, so that is that one. Oops, sorry.
You know, that mouse is.
I know.
The mouse is a little clunky.
Do you want to go to another link or you want
Go
to
to
go
the
back
next
to the
page.
presentation?
So I have the car quick guide on concessions. That's what this is. So please go through that and read that. And then again, to notice Sierra MLS has a yes or no, SDMLS doesn't, and then the MLS addendum.
Does that automatically come with the RLA?
Yes, it's automatically attached. It's on the very last side. You know, it's one of those documents you're like, oh, it's in the back. I don't need to know this, but it's probably a really important one. It's like the buyer inspection advisor is always attached to the RPA. It's the most important one in there. Yeah. There's my links.
Yeah. Yes, you're trying to get this.
Okay, they're not working.
Is it just in multiple listings or addendum that you're talking about?
Yes, that one. Let's go to the next one then. Okay. So we all know we have our files stored in command, right? And everybody here knows what an opportunity is?
Yes.
What's an opportunity?
Potential client.
It's a potential client or is a client. That's where all your documents get stored when you do go through the compliance process. So I announced it last month's meeting, but I'll announce it again. So we're now required to store all of your BRBCs on every buyer you have,
Whether they open escrow or not.
whether they open escrow or not. That's the MLS rule. The MLSs are required to say, hey, you got an agent that has this buyer, please show us proof that you have a buyer broker with them. So I have to have that stored digitally inside Command. Now, Jacqueline, you're a good person with Command. What does an opportunity really do when they log into their main page of Command?
One of the things I love about the opportunity, and also guys, I recorded a video on this yesterday night. I haven't posted it yet, but it literally walks you through how to do it. It took me 4 minutes. So I will post that to Facebook either tonight or tomorrow. But the great thing about opportunities is it will also project your potential income. So for me, it is very motivating to do my job every day when I can see what I will be earning when that closes, and it helps me keep track of that person. So for me, it's organizing that person and moving them through this pipeline so I don't forget about anybody who is about to be active or when I hear a property pitch. So those are two things I love about opportunities. It shows your projected income and it keeps you on top of the people that you really need to be in conversation with every single day.
Yes.
And the little boxes are really satisfying.
It's very
So the bonus is when you put all of your BRBCs in Command, you'll be able to future cast your business, which business owners do. We future cast what our business is. And in sales, you have to know who you're selling it to. So why not have a physical representation of all your future forward business? So you know, hey, I've got this one, this one, this one. So that's why you upload the BRBC into an opportunity that will eventually turn into an escrow. Now, what has happened in the past, all the TCs have told me, Broker Bob, they don't create them, we do. I'm like, well, that's going to have to change. Why?
Because it's not under contract. The TC not involved.
Yeah, so the TC's not going to be involved unless it's under contract. Now, don't be sending your TCs all the BRBCs. Say, here, can you upload these? They will gladly do it and create your opportunity for $25.
Okay, good.
It's easy.
Is that true? No, is that true?
We have all had our TC meeting. We have all agreed. Because they're like, yeah, I don't get paid unless it's an escrow and it closes. Why would I want to be their admin on their Command opportunities and upload all these BRBCs? Because how many of your buyers don't turn into an escrow?
Zero.
Who was that? Yeah.
She's getting good at her job.
Yeah. She's been in it too long.
She's got a good coach.
So just be aware, if you want them to do it, they'll gladly do it for a $25 fee, or you learn how to do it.
Jackson's 4-minute video.
4 minutes, literally, that's it. Once you know your command login,
And I have a just step-by-step instructions on how to do it with visuals.
Thank you,
Honestly, I
Bob.
think it's better to create your own opportunity, because then you just have more control over it. You put the right details in there.
I just love the fact you're behind that bush. So before I started, I forgot to say, I will probably go over. If you need to leave at 2:30, please feel free. But when we go through this next step, we might run over because I know you guys are going to ask a lot of questions. But has everybody been watching my hashtag broker advice? So running through that, if you haven't seen it, and if you want to go in to our private Facebook page, the inner office page, in the search bar, just put hashtag broker advice, and it will bring it all up. So I index it with the hashtag broker advice.
I've been creating a document with all of them.
I've also created a document that's linked in this PDF. That's a live document. When I get new ones, I add it to the very top. Yeah. I've made this show effing easy for you guys, because I know I was overwhelmed with everything Carr was throwing at me and Mark. I'm like, how do I chunk this down so people can understand easy bite size? And since RDR, I figured, well, I'll just do little blurbs on Facebook because they can read at least a couple sentences. And if they really know RDR, like Maria. So the hashtags are in there, but let's just go through this and see how smart you guys are. Does the NAR settlement apply to lease or rental transactions?
Yes.
No.
Is it,
No.
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 It's a new lease form.
So here's the caveat. The settlement applies only to single-family 1 to 4 units, not leases or rental residential property. However, there's a however. The MLS rulings prohibit offers of compensation through the MLS and are applied across the board and prohibit all offers of compensation posted on the MLS, even for leases or rentals.
Then we're $100,
So-
$50.
No, you can do it, but there's a VRBC sort of for a lease. If you're gonna help someone find a rental, which why waste your time? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Why waste your time? It's a lot of work for $50. Right.
And then they go find their own rental anyway.
But I want to circle back to why.
Do they not have the internet?
If you guys, I know, right? There are agents that want to help this buyer because they're eventually going to buy from me in 5 years. Because if I can go help them find a rental, okay? But you can't, okay, so you can take a lease listing and put it in MLS, okay? That's to market it to the broader real estate community because you have a former buyer or someone in your database that you want to help out because they're a former client and I want to do my best for them and provide them great service. And that's where it stops. You take the lease listing, input it in the MLS, and that's it. You don't screen tenants. You don't show the property. You don't talk about the nuances of the property with any prospective tenant. Why?
Because you become a property manager at that point, we don't do property management.
You become a property manager. Why else?
ED will kill us.
We don't have E&O insurance.
You're live. There are so many rental landlord-tenant laws in the state of California that you don't know about. And I have one of my best agents took a lease listing, answered one question from a prospective tenant. The tenant didn't even fill out an application, came back to sue us and her, and it cost the agent $10,000 for her deductible because she answered one question that she answered wrong. And there are cottage industries with attorneys that go out and find these tenants that are advocating for tenant rights, and they're creating an industry by suing landlords, prospective landlords, and real estate agents. And we're still in litigation with it. And they want, their amount was way up here, we came in way down here. But we're still gonna have to settle somewhere to make it go away. Because she answered one question. That's why when you ask me, well, when can I take a lease listing? It's a former client and I wanna do a good job for them. It's because of that. Give me a $10,000 check. Because that's what's gonna cost you to hold that. Lease listing, if you answer the wrong question. Yes?
Just, and I know you can't give details, because whatever litigation we can't, what did the prospective tenant ask for? At least tell them that number. Because they need to,
Oh, how much?
Yes.
$250,000.
What? This was a prospective tenant?
How much gray hair would you have if you knew somebody was coming after you as an agent for that amount of money? For a deal that didn't even get consummated?
And the landlord was a small-time landlord. This was their only rental, and they didn't know the new law that was implemented previously. And since this was closed, I can say the new law was you have to allow tenants if they have service animals. And she asked, do you take animals? No, my landlord doesn't want it. They don't want animals. That was the question. Didn't know it, didn't clarify that it was a service animal. She did afterwards. And that's where they got her.
Refer it to property management company.
Okay.
Broker Bob.
Yes.
So when you have a listing and that sometimes turns into a seller possession after or a lease after sale, like how do we advise those clients in the instance of that?
Well, I happen to have a document for that.
Yes, the carbon.
Mr. Yeah, no. It's called Tenant Occupied Sale Addendum and Tenant Occupied Purchase Addendum. The sale addendum walks the seller through everything they need to know about selling a tenant occupied property, and then how they need to seek legal counsel and advice on how to notice that tenant to vacate the property.
What about a buyer that the seller is going to be in possession? Is there a video for that one as well?
It's in that addendum. Yeah.
Those are really helpful.
Yes, thank you. I have assigned BRBC and the buyer would like to cancel. Is there a specific form for canceling?
Yes.
What is it?
I don't know.
It has to be in writing, and if it's non-exclusive, it's immediate.
It's the cancellation of buyer representation.
Okay.
Benny?
If it's exclusive, it's 30 days.
What about in scenarios, I know, don't take leases of it, but if the person's, because I mean, I've had this a couple times where they're listing it and they go, we gotta get it rented, or so either if we get it sold or we get it rented, and so you just put it on as a lease listing. So you're trying to say that we would probably have to get a property manager while it's also listed then?
No, if you have a lease listing as well as a sale for sale at the same time,
yeah,
any tenant inquiries go directly to that owner. You don't filter those.
Okay.
Just send any tenant inquiries over there.
Just so I haven't put in emails like that and just.
Just send them over to the owner. Let them deal with it. And then also advise your owner to speak with a qualified California real estate attorney that specializes in landlord-tenant laws, because the laws are so stringent, I wouldn't want to be a landlord. Especially, San Diego County is the worst. And there's so many rules. That's why you want to refer them to Dragonfly Property Management and let them deal with it. They know the laws. Okay. So under the BRBC, either party can cancel unilaterally, right? All they have to do is give notice. Now, it depends on if it's exclusive or non-exclusive. If it's non-exclusive, it's immediately canceled. If it's exclusive, there's how many days?
30.
30, but what do you have to provide within 5 days? On what form? The BIPP. Good job, Gavin. Did you hear that? BIPP. It's all the broker involved properties that you worked on during that period. Within 5 days, you have to give them that form. What you should be asking everybody before they sign a BRBC with you is what?
Do you have a
Yeah, money.
BIB or a BRBC with another?
The
Yes.
financial, the financial.
No.
Yeah.
You need to ask if they have signed one already with another broker, because then you've got another broker they're working with, and you would need a copy of that in addition to maybe if they've canceled that BRBC with the other broker, you need to know, get that cancellation, but also if they got a BIPP on properties that they would still owe that other broker on, that you can't represent them on.
So can we just put that as an attachment to our BRBC instead of just listing out every property
Yes.
that's excluded?
Oh, so they said properties that you were.
But do they always know what they signed, Sherry?
No.
She came in and asked me a question, and I said, I can't give you the answer, get that document, I can tell you the answer. You're gonna run across a lot of those where buyers are gonna say, I think I signed something, oh, I don't know what I signed. But if they did sign anything, they're legally obligated, that agent's legally required to give them a copy of it.
What if they don't?
Should we ask the agents?
That's where attorneys come in, all these what ifs, Judy. What if? What was that?
I said, if they say, oh, we had the BRBC signed, but we don't remember about anything else, should we call the agents and see if they have canceled?
You could. I would always CYA as many times as I possibly could. Okay. If the sellers agree to pay compensation to a buyer's broker form on the SPBB, is the seller required to obtain documentation verifying that the buyer owes that compensation to their broker?
No,
No. Why?
Why couldn't
because it's in violation of fair housing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But it's good practice, best practice, if you're writing an offer, you submit with your offer,
Sure.
page 5 of
The
the BRBC and then the
SPBB.
SPBB. That's best practice. When you check box 3G3. But here's also what's happening in compliance reviews, the most common things. Mark is seeing that on purchase agreements that you listing agents out in this room, and I'm staring at a few of them right now, are accepting the offer with box 3G3 checked, with SPBB checked, and there's no SPBB attached.
That's not ideal.
No. So if you're a listing agent, look at what contract you're accepting for your seller, behalf of the seller, and make sure you have all the documents with the boxes that are checked, because now they become part of the purchase agreement. So we're not seeing the SPBBs come across on every listing. I'm looking at a few of you.
Wait.
What's?
Yeah.
So it's
No, on the purchase.
In the purchase agreement, our listing agent, our very own listing agent, is not uploading that into the initial review, even though it was checked in the purchase agreement.
So the buyer's agent
Didn't
isn't
send it.
sending it over.
No, the listing agent's not verifying that the buyer's agent sent it over. Ultimately, the listing agent's supposed to check to make sure, well, where's the SPBB? You check that box.
Why you want to get paid, and then it's in there.
So, Rob,
Yeah.
good question. As buyer's agents, when we submit the SPBB, we do want to include the CRBC, right? But as a listing agent, if we receive the SPBB without the BRBC, just so that I'm clear, we cannot ask the buyer's agent for that, correct?
The seller can ask for it afterwards.
Afterwards.
Why can't you, why
After
can't you ask
acceptance
for
of
it
the
before?
offer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it said right here, the seller may choose to request verification, but it's not required. Although the brokerage can adopt a policy, and that's kind of like, I don't want to say it's a policy, but it's best practice. To get page 5 of you only need page 5 of the BRBC and the SPBB. And most agents will want to send that over just for verification that they're approving in their offer that the seller's willing to accept, pay me X%.
But I can understand some of the suppliers and just maybe not doing that.
Well, by sending those forms over, you've basically created the contract that shows, yeah, this seller's going to pay me as a buyer's agent the X% that I've asked, and this documentation now proves it and backs it up, and now it becomes enforceable. It could be unenforceable if those documents weren't there.
Okay.
Because then the seller can say, I didn't agree to 2.5% or 3%, and then that's where they end up in court.
So after acceptance, they can. And what if it came in and it was different? At that point, the seller have the ability to
What they accepted in the contract is what the seller's willing to pay. Now, if it's different, that's a different issue,
Okay.
right? We'll get into the part about if the listing agent's offering, the seller's offering 3%, but your buyer broker's only 2.5%.
Right.
We'll get to that.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So I'm a listing agent, I receive an RPA and SPBB, and they're asking for 3%, and my seller writes a counter and says, we will give 2%. Do we then generate a new?
No.
It's just right,
It's okay in the
whatever's in the
counter
counter
offer.
for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the counter. But what happens if you're representing the buyer and your BRBC is at
One, then.
1%, but the listing is gonna wanna do 2 or 2.5 or 3.
They're only allowed to receive 1%.
You're only allowed to see 1%.
Whatever's on. And the other 1% you may be able to get in the form of buyer concessions and or with the approval.
Well, are you gonna go back to your doctor? Are you gonna go back to your buyer and say, oh, I only signed you for 1%, but they're offering 3%. And that additional 2, I really want it, even though you can get it, but I want it.
That's like.
So best practice, what should you sign your BRBCs for?
3%.
At least 3. Now, if you need to, let's say you stumble upon a property and you find out that they're offering 3.5 because they're trying to get it sold. You've only asked for 3% on your SPB or your BRBC. Get a modification of terms, the DM-BR for that one property to reflect the 3.5%. Don't change your entire BRBC.
Just in case that one falls out.
I have a question about modification of terms. When we do that, are we supposed to send that with our RPA, the modification of terms, so that escrow and everybody knows that we're going to modify that 0.5%? Are we sending it to the listing agent?
You're sending it to escrow to verify that you're going to get the additional 0.5% or whatever it is.
But I don't have to send it with my RPA.
No, after the offer is accepted.
Okay.
And Mark was
Because I
saying
had
that.
that, but the vice versa, they're offering 2 and I have to 1.5 and I don't want my client to pay the difference.
Yeah. Oh, you're so kind.
I know.
Mark was even saying that if in that situation, instead of sending, if you were to reduce it to whatever the seller's offering, that you wouldn't send the seller the page 5 of the BRBC, you'd send them the MT. Because that way they don't know, and don't put on there, it used to be 3, now it's 2.5,
Yeah.
or whatever, just put what it's now.
Yeah. That's why it's best practice to get your buyer broker agreements at what? 3%. And if you're getting less, you'll get less. But it's hard to go from getting less to getting more in the transaction. And this is where you guys are going to learn and understand your what? Your value. Your value. Here's some common things that are happening with reviews. The BRBCs are not uploaded prior to escrow. So again, get your opportunities uploaded. We're seeing BRBCs dated after the RPA. What's wrong with that picture?
DRE violation. You're not supposed to even show homes before that.
Exactly. You can't show a home until you have a BRBC signed.
What if we had a showing agreement signed?
Or the PSRA is fine too.
Okay, but then you still need BRBC afterwards before.
No, if you use the
That's
PSRA,
enough, okay.
that defines the relationship too. I should have said BRBC or PSRA.
Okay.
We're seeing it dated after, is the point. No.
No.
And Mark will be letting me know, and guess who you're gonna call from?
You.
Yay.
It's you now.
Can a buyer's agent write a provision into their buyer rep agreement
No.
in which they agree to reduce the charge commission to whatever the amount seller agrees to pay? No. That violates the terms of the NAR settlement.
I've been reading the brokerage notes, so.
Can a buyer use the SPBB form to request from the seller more compensation than what the buyer has in fact agreed to pay their own broker? No. When the buyer signs a BRBC, they contractually agree to that amount, unless you do a modification of terms. It's 2:30 if you need to go, make your way out now. If not, I'll have just a few more of these. If a seller counters the purchase price, do credits automatically adjust as a percentage of the price? Well, it depends. It depends if the credit is a general credit under 3G1, then it's no. So a general credit is like $10,000. But if it's a percentage in the 3G1, like 2%, then it adjusts. Okay? I'm making an offer on vacant or tenant occupied property. What important questions should I be asking the listing agent or seller on behalf of my buyer?
As the previous tenant.
When was the tenant notified about the sale of the property, and how were they notified that they have to get out? Was proper notification given? Because a tenant can go back up to 5 years later. I'm right?
So you hear that? So you want to ask if it's tenant occupied or even if it's vacant. Ask, was this ever occupied prior to taking it to market? Well, in fact, it was. The tenants moved out a month ago, and the seller got it painted and stuff like that. Great. How were the tenants noticed? Were they noticed in the terms and the provisions provided in the state of California rules on how to evict a tenant? Well, actually, San Diego County. Was it for just cause? And the 4 reasons for just cause are taking it off the market, putting it up for sale, going to remodel the unit, or going to move back in. And that's just cause, right? Any one of those 4, the sellers, the property owner is required to do what? When they give notice to that tenant?
Pay 3 months.
Pay 2 months of rent to get the tenant out, or 3 months if they're disabled or elderly.
What if the tenants are roommates and there's no lease?
Then you're screwed. You refer that seller to, or you're representing the buyer, representing the seller, you refer that seller to an attorney to talk about how to get those tenants out.
She just tells them to go and they go.
I'm not a landlord attorney. She's got to speak to a landlord attorney on how to get them out, because every jurisdiction's different too.
Just roommates, it's the same thing?
It's the same thing. Even if they don't have a lease, if they're in the house, like if I have my aunt living there, she's considered a tenant. I didn't have my aunt sign a lease to move in, but she's an adult.
3 months of 0.
Yeah. And then, because if that tenant was not notified properly, they have up to 5 years to come back and sue the current property owner. The current property owner. Your buyer that you helped get in there, and you didn't vet if it was tenant occupied or if they were vacated properly. Don't you love all the new effing laws I gotta keep up with? You mean
That's when the tenant's staying in the
that's if the tenant's staying there.
Otherwise, she should give them a notice.
I recommend, Judy, this is my recommendation. Have her speak to a qualified California real estate attorney that specializes in landlord-tenant issues. She has to. You can't give her advice. Huh?
Do we have a referral for a tenant?
I do have referrals. If you want to send it to me, I have a list that I've created.
So she should speak to a qualified real estate attorney.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
It's scary to be a landlord. I have a PSRA signed with my buyer instead of a BRBC. What do I need to submit with my offer when asking for a seller to compensate for the buyer for what the buyers agreed to pay me as their own broker?
What was that first part?
If you have the PSRA instead of the BRBC. Remember that's 3 units, up to 3 units is only good for 30 days, and it's non-exclusive. So it doesn't have to be included in the offer, but you're going to have to supply that PSRA to escrow to show this is what the sellers agreed to pay me. But in the offer, you're gonna check that box, PSR, put like a check box other, and put PSRA attached. Now, Carforms is aware of this, and they're gonna fix it in the December release, because they realize, oh, we needed to put a box for PSRA instead of the SPBB and the BRBC. So they're gonna fix that, but right now I would just put other and put PSRA. And then send that over with your offer to show that the buyer's willing, the buyer signed a PSRA with me for 3%. Mr. Seller, please pay me 3%. Does that make sense?
Thanks, guys.
Am I entitled to compensation if, after notice of cancellation of the BRBC, that the buyer enters contract to buy a property in which where there was broker involvement during the representation or continuation period?
Only
If
if
it
it
was-
Give them a bit.
It's during the continuation, yeah.
Only if you did,
Give them the SPA. The
NBIP,
NBIP.
In 5 days.
within 5 days.
RRRR. Like that was usually when they first came out. When my TC sent them, I'm like, oh, that's funny. 8 years ago.
How do you counter the request that the seller pay the buyer's broker commission?
As a listing.
Yeah, so you're a listing agent, you get an offer, purchase agreement, they want 3%, and the seller only wants to pay 2.5%.
Seller will
The
pay.
seller
Seller's
tells you
paying.
Seller counter offer? There was no way to write up a counter. Also, the seller considered counting on price rather than commission directly. But to counter the commission, all one has to do in the counter offer is seller agrees to pay X% of the purchase price toward the obligation of the buyer to pay buyer's broker for item 1E. So use that contract language that I gave you. It's in the link. My buyer's refusing to sign the BRBC. Is there a simpler version of this form?
Yes.
It is? What is it called?
The short one.
PSRA. I've only said PSRA like 10 times, you guys.
You keep on wanting to say
I suggest you see a real estate attorney.
What do I do? I countered an offer where the agent did not check box 3G3, and they submitted page 5 of the BRBC and the SPBB, and there was no mention of a buyer's broker payment in any counter, and now the agent is asking for 2.5% commission from the seller.
Too bad.
There's no
Learn the contracts.
I do like this.
Well, the question, so that was the question. The answer is, well, if the offer is now fully executed by both buyer and seller, then the agent is
Working for free.
SOL.
You'll do that one.
Can I ask a question on that one, Brooke?
Yeah.
So, but in reality, if I'm the listing agent and I see that come through, and I think there's a chance that that could contribute to that offer falling out because of
You have ethics.
But right, it's my obligation, my fiduciary to my seller to go, look, they didn't check the right boxes. It's up to you. This is the only offer and you're, want to work with it and keep going. But if you've got other offers that are on the table, I'm just telling you, like, they didn't fill this out properly. And I think that agent, there's going to be some turmoil.
Well, usually a good listing agent cleans up the buyer's agent's messy RPA.
Right.
You don't tell them that they screwed up, you just clean it up in a counter.
Yeah.
So just by FYI, if you get a counter back that has a lot of items on it, it's because your offer sucked. You missed a lot of boxes. And that listing agent was on top of things. And they had to clean up your mess. Nobody in this room does that though.
So if there's
No, that's happening.
If you're that one person in the room, like, oh, I remember that.
That may be an indication, but that's
2 pages.
Is the buyer required to provide personal and financial information under the BRBC?
Only to the box.
Yeah.
Isn't it, do we check the box?
Yes.
It's required for every buyer.
It's required, it's 5 days.
Only the timing of delivery is optional.
Okay.
I knew there was a check.
The default is the buyer will provide it within 5 days.
Right.
And that's, what form is it? It's the BFPI.
What is it?
Buyer Financial something something. Okay, this one you want to listen to. This one's important. What if the buyer cannot afford to pay the buyer's broker? Can the BRBC be signed conditional on the seller agreeing to pay the buyer's broker?
Yes.
Yes. You need to check which box.
Which says the
Whatever
number.
those two little ones
There's
are.
one that's
Buyer cannot afford it on
You
the-
check box 2G2. All right, but here's what happens. If you check box 2G2 and the buyer says, I can't afford to pay it, what do you have to do?
Back off if the seller.
You're stepping out of that transaction
Right.
and not doing the transaction, and you're allowing that buyer to go ahead and buy that property.
Right.
Right.
Oh.
And letting them know ahead of time too, during the consultation, that that is an option if they wanted, if they found a house that they really liked and they weren't getting seller compensation for that, that they would be.
So what's the moral of the story?
Check sure they can
afford it. Yeah.
Oh, don't sign the buyer.
Communicate.
Doesn't have the right way to pay you.
Yes. What, so follow up on that. What happens if the agent withdraws from the transaction after the seller refuses to pay the buyer's broker commission, but the buyer continues on and closes the transaction? Is the broker still owe the commission?
Not if you check that.
No, they're not. You just work for free.
And now, wait a minute, let's go back to that other one.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
So we were just chatting amongst ourselves. If we refuse to sign the buyer because they don't have the money to pay me, doesn't that go against discrimination
Mhm.
and all, yeah, so how do we protect ourselves in that?
Time will tell.
Oh, we are spoken
And
to
then
that.
potentially, would then also potentially indicate that the seller is going to be paying the listing agent a higher percentage perhaps for them processing transactions with represented buyers? So
We don't know that. We're out of the
Right,
transaction.
yeah, we don't know that.
We don't know that. We're out of the transaction at
And we don't
that
know
point.
what they signed on the list.
That's why you gotta take that training and understand these forms. Because if you start checking boxes willy-nilly and you don't know what they mean, Nikki, don't look like a deer in the headlights.
I am right now.
So if you explain to a buyer sounds that like you just.
Before we sign a buyer agreement,
free.
we should go through their finances.
But that's discrimination.
I would have a discussion.
Right.
I would have a discussion. Let's talk about we find a property and the seller's unwilling. What do you want to do at that point?
Well, just explain, and this has happened, explain that I cannot work for free. So you do have the option to go directly through the seller, either as dual representation or unrepresented, whatever you all agree on. And then we would make sure though that we sign, we do the thing where we just made that BRBC for that property in case that they were to move forward and fall out and we could still represent them on something else. But
And where do you get the link?
I had a buyer say, no, I don't, I wouldn't want to do that. I want representation.
Where do you
So we would
get,
just
where do you
want
get the
to know.
language to have that conversation?
What's that?
Where do you get the language?
And the link.
Broker bond.
Attorney.
No?
It's up in the BCA. right?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
What's that?
I've been reading that over the buyer compensation.
Broker.
Sorry.
Broker compensation.
Copy is the broker.
If you get anything out of today, read the broker compensation advisory. It's going to give you the language to talk to these people in your buyer consultations.
Yes.